So before we start using Microsoft Excel, let us talk about how we can access Excel. So there are two ways. Number one option is where you do not need to install anything on your computer and you do not need to purchase anything either. The other option is installation, the option where you will have to purchase Excel. So in the first option, that is the cloud version, that is the online version, all you need to do is to go to www.office.com, and here once you sign in your Microsoft account that you can create for free, once you sign in you will be seeing this screen. Now you can get Excel by clicking here or here on this left panel, and you can see there are many other options that are available to you, and all of this is available for free. But if you like to install Microsoft Excel, you will click here, and for that you will need to purchase Excel. So if I need to use the online version, I will click here, and this will open an Excel workbook for me within Microsoft within my internet browser. That can be Chrome or Firefox or Microsoft Edge. Now you can see I have Excel on my computer, and just if I press F11 on my keyboard, you can see it will become full screen now, and it looks like the standard Microsoft Excel version. Now this version is very powerful, it is very good. However, the desktop version that you can download and install has much more features. Having said that, if you are beginner or intermediate level user, this online version will be sufficient for you. Now, having seen this online version, I will be using actually desktop version in my course here because that is much more powerful, and we will be using some more features that are not available in online version like Power Pivot. So if I go back to my main website, you can click here and install that. I have already done that. So now to access Excel from my computer, I will press Windows key on my keyboard if you are using the Windows laptop, and now I will write here Excel. By the way, you can see we have icon here, or there can be a desktop icon in your on your desktop as well. So all of these are options, but the way I like to access Excel is by writing Excel here, and now you can see we have all the recent files that I was working on here. So if I click here, my previous file will be opening, so I don't need to go to the folders and get that file from there. Right now I need to work on a brand new Excel file, a blank file. So I will click here, and this will open Microsoft Excel for me. So it is opening, just give it a second, and now you can see we are in a brand new Excel workbook. By the way, you may find a little different file at the beginning, and you may be navigated to some screen like this one, and you may be required to choose a template to work with. So if that is the case, if you are seeing this screen first when you open your Excel, just click here on this blank workbook so that we can begin from scratch. But of course, if you know how these templates are and you like to use them, you will be clicking on that. Right now I need to work on a blank workbook, so I will be clicking here. So now we are in a blank workbook, and in this workbook the first thing that we need to see is this central area. Now this central area is called worksheet. What that means is this complete Excel file in which we are working right now, this complete Excel file is called workbook, and this particular area is called worksheet. This is the most important area because this is where our data lives. Now the important thing to know about this worksheet is in one Excel file, one Excel workbook, you can add multiple worksheets by clicking here. So now you can see my same Excel file has 3 sheets. So before I talk more about this area that is called worksheet or spreadsheet, I would also need to introduce some other things here that you can see. So on the top you can see we have multiple tabs like this home tab or insert tab or draw tab, and you must have noticed that as I click on any tab, this opens a complete new ribbon. So yes, this area is called ribbon, and this ribbon is basically dependent on the tab. As I click on the tab, the ribbon, the functions shown in ribbon are changes. So this ribbon would show you all the functions and features and formulas that Microsoft Excel has to offer. All the functions and features that you can use with your data. And this particular thing is what makes Microsoft Excel superior to any other data analysis software. And if I explain that, in Microsoft Excel you can apply anything simply by clicking, just by a few clicks. In some softwares you will need to remember the formulas, and you will need to do coding, but in Excel you can do all those advanced level things just by clicking on different functions in your ribbon here. Below this ribbon there is a formula bar that we can talk about later. And one more thing that I would like to show you right now is this zoom option at the bottom. So if you click here, you can zoom your screen. So if I use Control Alt plus, or if I use if I click here, you can see I can zoom in my worksheet, and if I use Control Alt minus, I can zoom out back here. So zoom in and zoom out. So you can either click here on the plus and minus sign to zoom in, zoom out, or you can use Control Alt plus, or you will be using Control and then scroll bar on your mouse, and this will also be zooming in or zooming out data for you. This is again a very useful thing. Now after that, you can see there is a sheet navigation at the bottom. So this is all we need to know to remember to start using Microsoft Excel, and we are ready for that. But one thing I would like to show you right now is this top toolbar. This is called Quick Access Toolbar, and the good thing about this Quick Access Toolbar is you can customize that. So all the functions and features that you will be using most, you will request Excel, you will go into the options and you will request Excel that please place them here into this toolbar, so that you can use them quickly rather than navigating here. So that is one thing that we should be knowing. Finally, another key point, if you are using a bigger screen monitor, I'm using 13.3 right now, but if you are using a bigger screen monitor, you may be seeing some additional options in your ribbon here. So for example, in my case, my cell styles here, this option is all hidden here in this drop down. But if you are using a bigger screen monitor, some of these options must be appearing here, but that doesn't matter. At the end, everything is same. The functions and formulas are same. Another thing that deserves to be introduced right in the first lecture are three concepts: cell, column, and row. So if you notice that there are many small rectangular boxes that are appearing here in the worksheet. Each of this box is called a cell. Then you can see that there is a vertical context of cells. So if I click here on this letter G, you can see I have selected all the cells that are appearing in this vertical context. Similarly, if I click here, I have selected all the cells that are appearing here in this vertical context. This vertical set of cells is called a column, and this horizontal set of cells. So if I click here, you can see I have selected all the cells that are appearing in this horizontal line. So this horizontal set of cells is called a row. So three concepts: a cell, that is this small box; a column, that is this vertical context; and then a row, that is this horizontal context. Now you will notice that each of this column has a name that is represented as an alphabet. So this column will be called column A, column B, column C, and so on. And if I scroll to the right by pressing the right key on my keyboard, if I do that, you can see that we have more and more columns. And now I have to go to the end of the sheet on my right. So I'll press the Control key on my keyboard and press the right arrow key, and you can see that now I'm at the end of my sheet. So this is the last column. So of course there is a limitation of columns on my worksheet, and this is basically 16,384. So my worksheet has 16,384 columns. Going back, I will press the Control key and the left arrow key, and I'm back to my main screen in column A. And now if I scroll down, you can see we have more and more rows. And to go to the end of the sheet, I'll press Control key and the down arrow key, and now you can see we are at the bottom of the sheet, and my last row number is 1,048,576. So we have 1,048,576 rows that are available. And if I have to count these cells, we have 70,879,000,000 and some thousand cells available here. So you can see we have so many cells. Now why this is important? This is important because each cell here is used to store some data. So for example, if I have to store some name, I can use that. If I have to use some numbers like 1 2 3, I can use that. Or if I have to store anything, I can use these cells. And by having billions of cells here on my worksheet, it means that I can record billions of data points here in my Microsoft Excel. And by the way, this is just one worksheet. We can add more worksheets, we can add more worksheets, and we can add as many worksheets as we like. At the end, there is only thing that is limiting you to add more and more worksheet is the processing power and memory of your computer. Excel itself will not stop you from adding worksheets. Now we are going to talk about this cell, column and row in detail now, because that is the main thing to do. And then as we will be modifying our data, we will be using all these functions and features, and I will be representing you what are the functions and features that are available here. So we are starting from the discussion of cell in the next lecture. But before that, one last thing that I need to tell you that is very important is how to save your Excel file. So right now the Excel file that I'm working on is not saved, and if I close that from here, my data, the work that I have done, will be wasted. Now to save the Excel file, I will click here on this file option, and I have option to save or save as. So I'll click on save as, and I will say, first of all, it is asking me that where I want to save in my OneDrive that is on the Microsoft account that is based in the cloud, or should I use my PC. So I will say this PC, and this on this PC, first of all, I can name this file. This is going to be my first file for this particular project. I'm naming it as that. And then you can define the options here. So by clicking on more options, you can choose the path where do you want to save in your computer. And by the way, you can also choose a different file type. So a different file type is something that we can discuss later on. This is not important. For now, we will stick to the Excel workbook. So I'll click save, and now this file has been saved in my computer in the folder that I have used. So from the next lecture, what we are going to do is we are going to start learning how we store data in the cells, and how then we use columns and rows concept to easily change our data. So I'll see you there. Now let us talk about the cell in detail. First of all, you will see that each cell by default is falling into a column and a row. And this is how we drive the name of the cell. So for example, if you look at this particular cell that has been selected, it is falling in the column D, and for the row it is falling in the row 3. So this cell will be named D3. And by the way, this cell name is also mentioned here, and you can see it as D3. Now this cell is falling in column A and row 1. So this would be A1, this would be B1, this would be C1, and now C2, and now C3. So this way each cell has a name. Now this cell can be, once you click here, you can move around by using your mouse, or you can use the arrows key on your keyboard. The up arrow will move up, and down arrow will take it to the bottom, and the right arrow and then the left side. So this way you can navigate between the different cells. Now this cell can be used to store any data that you want. For example, a name of a country, USA. Now once you have entered the name, if you press enter, it will take you to the cell below. And once you have entered the name, if you press the tab key, it will take you to the cell on its right. So for example, if I have to write Canada now, I have written Canada. Now if I press the enter key, it will take me to the cells below it. And if I press the tab key, which I'm going to do now, it is going to take me to the cell on my right. So we should know these keys for the fast navigation. Now once you have entered a data in the cell, if you go there and try to write anything other than that, for example, if I like to add a name of a city here, alongside Canada, it will rather overwrite it. So if I start writing, you can see that it has actually overwritten the previously written text. So I need to go back to the original state, and for that there is a very useful feature in Excel, and that is called undo. So I'll undo that, and you can see we are back to the Canada. And by the way, you can undo multiple steps at the same time by pressing here on this down arrow key. So you can see if I click here, it will also undo the typing of USA that I have done. So it will undo my previous 4 actions, but right now I will just undo one and I will continue with what I was talking. So I was saying, if I have to edit what has been written in my cell, I will double click here, and now I can start editing, and I can say Toronto. Or the other option is, which we should be using more often, because at the end we will also have to maintain a speed of work, and for that we will be using keyboard preferably. So for that I will be pressing F2 on my keyboard, and once I press F2 on my keyboard, the cell becomes editable and the previously entered data remains there. So again I have to delete Toronto now, so I'll press F2 first, and then I will use the backspace key to delete that, and now I will press enter, and this way we will be able to delete the extra stuff that we have mentioned. By the way, if you have to delete from right to left, you use the backspace key. And if I go back to this first point here, and if I have to delete from my right hand, from the right side, I'll be using the delete key. So this way you can delete data that has been entered in the different cells. You can also write a complete sentence in your Excel cell. So for example, I can say USA is the largest economy in the world. Now you can recognize that I have made a mistake, and that mistake is USA is the largest. I should be adding a the here. But the problem is, if I press my left arrow key, it will throw me out of the cell and it will take me to this point here. Rather, I wanted to work within the cell and come to this point. So to go backwards in your point, you will be pressing F2, and then you will be using your left key. And now you can see I can navigate within the cell. So getting back to the point, so we were saying that we can type anything in a cell, that can be a name or a complete sentence or an amount. So for example, 500, or I can also add a $ to say $500, or even a date, for example 1st of January 2023, or even a formula. So to write a formula, I will just need to enter an equal sign and write anything that I need. For example, I need to do 2 plus 3. And you can see we have 5 here now. So we have written a formula as well. So these billions of cells that we have spoken about, all of these cells are independent of each other. What that means is, if I enter something else here, so for example, say I write here China, this has nothing to do with all the data entered here in this cell. So all of these cells are independent of each other, but if you need them to connect, you make them interdependent, you can do that as well. So for example, if I write 2 in this cell and 3 in this cell, and I say equals this plus this, now this cell is, I repeat what I have done, I would say equals. Now I will use the left arrow key and then use the plus sign on my keyboard, and then again left arrow key and press enter. So I'm basically linking these cells here. Now output in this cell, which is F11, output in this cell is dependent on the values in these 2 cells. So if I write 10 here, now you can see this value has been automatically updated. So I will say this cell is dependent on these 2 cells, and these 2 cells have a precedent which is going here. So now you can also link cells. So these cells are independent of each other, all of these cells, but if you like, you can interconnect them and you can also make them dependent on each other. So this is the first introduction about cells that we got to know. Now we know that to navigate between cells, you can use left arrow, right arrow, and upward and downward arrows keys. But what if we have to select multiple cells? So what I will need to do is I will need to press the shift key on my keyboard and then use the upward arrow key, and you can see I can select all of these cells. Or I can say press the shift key, and if I have to select all of these cells in this series, I'll also press the control key and upward arrow key, and now you can see we have selected all of these cells in just one go. Similarly, if I press the shift key and the right key, you can see we can also select all the cells that are on the right. Or you can simply use the keyboard and click here and then drag, and you can see we have selected all the cells. The beauty of selecting multiple cells is if I now do anything with this data, with this, with these cells, that command will be applied on all the cells that have been selected. For example, if I press the delete key on my keyboard, this will delete everything that was available in the selected cells. Now, of course, I don't need to delete that right now, so I will press the Ctrl Z, or I will click here, Ctrl Z to undo, and now you can see that we have all the data that is available to us again. One beautiful thing about selecting multiple cells is, so for example, if I select multiple cells here, and now if I write anything in the first cell, so for example, if I write ABC, and I press Control Enter, I press the Control key, keep it pressed, and then press the Enter, it will be copied to all the cells here. So you must be thinking, what is the use case of that? So right now this might look a little bit basic thing, like unnecessary thing, but once we start to work with the advanced features, this will be very, very useful. So I repeat what we have done. So I will delete everything first. I would say I have selected multiple cells, and now I write anything in the first cell like CXY, and now I press Control Enter. It will be replicated to all the selected cells. I don't need that, so I can simply select them again or delete, or I can simply do Control Z. So here we are back with our original data. After this first introduction of cell, the next very important thing to know is the cell format. And what cell format means is, you can see we can store any type of data here. A name, a text, a number, an amount, or date, or even a formula. So unless we apply the right format on this cell, Excel will not know what type of data are we storing and how to deal with it. So, and that can eventually, corrupt our data. So you can see that, please keep your eyes here. Excel has applied a general format to all of these things that we have mentioned here. So what we can rather do is, we can click here on this drop down, and we can choose the right format for that particular thing. So for example, if we have to write a name, we can use the text format. If we have to write the complete sentence, we can use the text format. Similarly, if we have to write a number, we can use the number format. And you can see that now that we have added the number format, it has also given me the decimals, which I can get rid of by clicking here, or I can get them back by clicking here. And if you have a bigger number, for example, if you have say 5,000, you can also apply a comma by clicking here. And you can see now we have the complete number appearing with a comma and decimals, and we can get rid of decimals as we need. Then we have this amount, this $500. Excel has already applied currency format on this one, so we can keep it currency, or we can also apply accounting. And you can see once we apply accounting, the representation is a little bit different now. The dollar sign is appearing on my left side of the cell, which is looking much nicer. Then we have this date, so we can change this to date format, short date, and then we have number, we can make it number, and then we have this formula, we can make it number as well. So this format is something very important. And why is that so? Let me explain you. So let us say we have applied the format of on this particular cell K5, we have applied the format of number, and now if we try to type in some date, for example 2nd of January 2023, press enter, you can see it has changed the format, and it looks like this data has been corrupted. Actually, this is just that they have converted my date into the number format. So all I need to do is to go back here and change the format date, and now you can see it has actually given me my date back. Now if you are thinking that there are billions of cells and usually the data is also in big amount, by if you have to talk about the format for every cell, this is going to be very complicated and difficult journey. But once we start to follow a basic discipline in data entry and data management, these things start to become very easy automatically. We will talk about that as we proceed to the next lectures when we start talking about columns and rows as well. But right now I will stop here for the formatting part, and we will talk about it again in the next lecture when we are talking about rows and columns. For now, I need to talk about one more thing. So we have spoken about what is cell, how to enter data in the cell, and then how to format. The third thing is how to style our data in a cell or cell itself. What that means is, so first of all, let us say if I want to increase the size of font here in this particular cell, I will select that and I will say make it 18. Now if we select multiple cells and if we change the font size, this will automatically be applied to all of these cells. Secondly, you must have noticed that the data in this particular cell, that is F6, is going to the next column, next cells as well. First of all, you don't worry about that. You don't need to worry about that, because if I enter something here, for example, say if I write some another data here, this will automatically be shrinked, and you can read this data here, but this has automatically shrunk. But if you want to keep it in this particular column only, you can click here on this wrap text, and you can see that now data has become automatically fit in this particular cell without going to the next cell. But of course it has changed the size of the cell, so I'll just unwrap it for now. The next thing that we need to talk about is you can change the font color. So if I click here, you have so many colors to choose from. So if I select this light blue, my font color has changed. Similarly, if I use this left side one, I can color the complete cell as needed. By the way, you can choose to style your cell like that one by one yourself in your own way, or you can simply apply a cell style from here as well. So for example, there are so many styles that are appearing here. If I click on this one, you can see this will automatically be changing the style of my cell. So this is a fast option to style the cell. And by the way, if you have a particular style, you can also define that, and this will be stored within this Excel file, and you can use that multiple times. Similarly, you can also outline a cell, and again there are so many options. You can use thick borders or simple borders, or only the lower side, or only top and bottom. There are so many options to choose from. So for now I'm using the simple outside borders for this particular cell. Then you have options to bold your data, underline your data, and make it italics. So you can use all of these options as well. And then finally, you also have the option to choose different fonts. There are so many fonts that are available here, which are very nice, but eventually you can also download more formats from the internet that you can use. So for example, I have this font here in my computer, which is animal font. This has been downloaded from the internet. It was not available within Excel. But having said that, the Excel fonts are already so good, and there are so many options that you won't need to go there. Then in styling, we also have the alignment options. You can left align your data, or you can central align your data, or you can right align your data. Of course, if you have selected multiple cells, it will be applied to all the cells automatically. Right now I am working only in one cell. So central alignment or left alignment, this is particularly useful when you are working with headings. And then you have this alignment as well, which basically, if I just make my cell bigger, it will now be making sense. You can centrally align it, and you can even top align this one. So I will just undo it for now. We can also do indentation with our data, and by that what we mean is we can use this a little bit of space to, especially where we are using headings and subheadings, to make it look like a little nicer. And again, to go back to our original position, we can do this and we can do this. So this is again a very useful feature. And then we can also rotate our text, so we have multiple options to choose from. So for example, if I want to write USA like this one, we can do this as well. Of course, this is useful when we are working with headings. So even though we are just beginning at the moment, I just need to show you one more formatting option that is very useful. So I'll delete Canada from here, and I would say, what if we have to present USA written in the center of all of these cells, the way we represent headings usually. For that, the first option that we can use is to merge these cells. And you can see that now USA is nicely written in the center of all the cells that you had selected. But I would say please do not use this option at all. Unmerge that right now. That will be actually compromising the some functionalities of Microsoft Excel. So I would not recommend that. Rather, there is another very beautiful option, and that is just click on this arrow icon on that is appearing here right below the merge. And once it is when this pop-up is open, click on this horizontal alignment, and here you have the option that is center across selection, and click OK. Now you can see that your text is in the center of all of these cells. This is working like a heading, but individual cells are also there. Once you had merge, once you were using merge option, all of these cells had become one cell, and that actually compromises many functionalities of Excel. So this center across selection option is much better. So these are some of the basic formatting options that we should be knowing right at the beginning. And now I want to clean my data from all the formats that we have used. For that, I can select all the cells. Or by the way, if you have much more data, you can click here on this box, and it will select the entire sheet for you. Either way, we are good to go. Right now my data is small, so I can select all of these cells, and now go to this clear option here and click on clear formats. By doing that, the formats will be clean, but the data will remain. So I'll click here, and now you can see you again have the data that is all the way clear from all the formats. Even the number formats have been removed from that, and the styling has also been removed. So now that we know the fundamentals of a cell, next we are going to talk about a column and a row, and only then when we combine these three things, our basic knowledge will be complete to start working in Microsoft Excel. Now that we know the first fundamental concept, that is a cell, let us talk about the second most fundamental and very important concept, that is column. So a column is a vertical set of cells that are appearing here, and you can select that by clicking here on the column name, or you can also select that from your keyboard by pressing the Control key and then by pressing the space bar key. So press the Control key, keep it pressed, and now press the space bar key as well, and you can see that you can select the complete column. So once that we have selected this column, why it is so important? Now you can apply your commands, that font, that alignment, that number, that style, all of that commands to that million cells that have been selected now in just one go. So for example, if I like to color my column as light gray, I just need to do that now, and you can see that now these millions of cells, if I just go to the end of the sheet by pressing Control and down arrow key, you can see this 1,048,576 cell has also the same color now. So you can apply the style and formats and everything in one go within seconds to all the cells that are appearing here. Similarly, if I change the format of this column, you can see everything in this column is now in this new format, and since I don't want to use this format, I will undo for now. But the point is, you can do that to the millions of data cells in one go. And that is what I was talking about, that once you know how to handle data, how to deal with data in Excel, you can handle that very easily. You can apply your commands to the millions of data points in 1 second. Now the next thing that we need to know about column is, You can add as many columns to your Excel file in your data. So I will select the column again by pressing the control space bar, and now to add a column on my left, I will right click here and I will say insert, and you can see a new column has been inserted. Now I have to add the more columns, and for that what I need to do is, again I need to select the column by pressing the control space bar, and now again I can do that by using mouse by pressing the right key, or on the keyboard I can use control shift plus and control shift plus and control shift plus, and you can see control shift plus is adding more and more columns for me. By the way, I will just stop here for a minute from my column thing, and I will tell you a generic Excel trick that is very useful, and that is, if I have to repeat my last step, just repeat the last step no matter what that is. I'll press F4 key on my keyboard, and now you can see since my last step was to add the column, F4 is adding more and more columns for me. Now if we have to delete a column, what we need to do is to select the column and then press the right key and click on delete, and you can see that the column has been deleted. Again click on delete and the column has been deleted. Or you can, on your keyboard, you can say control minus and your columns are getting deleted. So this is very simple. Similarly, if I select this one and press F4, now you can see that the column has been deleted again. So now let us talk about the summary. To add a column, control shift plus, and to delete a column, control minus, and press 4 or press F4 to repeat the same step. Now this is the first thing that we have to learn about Microsoft Excel columns. Now after we have spoken about the adding and deleting columns, the next thing is to hide the columns. And by hiding the column, what I mean is the column will remain in your Excel file, but it will not be visible to the user. And why is that so important? Let me explain you. So here we have this column, and if I just delete that, see what will happen to this formula, because if I just recall this cell, the data in this cell is basically sum of these two cells. And now if I select this one, this column, and I delete that by pressing control minus, you can see that this formula has broken because the cell it was linked to no more exists. And that is why we should not be deleting the columns where the data is interlinked. So I'll press Ctrl Z to undo what I have just done, that was deleting the column. And now rather than deleting, I will select this column and I will say right click and click on hide. And now you can see the column is no more visible, but this formula is working. And when you click on this formula, you press F2 to open the formula, you can see that this cell is containing the sum of D11 and E11. And now we can see E11, here it is. Where is D11? Well, the thing is D11 exists. It is just that you can't see that right now. So you can see you have column C and then you have column E. The column D is hidden here. Now to unhide that, I will select these two columns and I will right click and say unhide, and now you can see you have your column again. So after column, the next fundamental concept that we need to learn is the row. So the row is the horizontal set of cells that we can select by clicking here on the row name that has names as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can select on the row name and it will select the complete row for you. Or alternatively, on your keyboard, you can press Shift key and the space bar key and it will select the complete row for you. Now if you have to select multiple rows, all you need to do is to keep the Shift key pressed and press the downward arrow key, and it will select all the rows that you have selected. Okay, so after that, now I press the Control Shift bar. If I have to add the rows, you have the first option, that is using the mouse, right click and click on insert, or you can select the row and do that control shift space bar, control shift plus sign, and you can see that the new rows have been added for you. Similarly, if you want to delete one row, just select that and right click and you can press the control, this delete button, or you can select the row or multiple rows that you want to delete and press the control minus sign and the row will be deleted for you. The multiple rows have been deleted for you. Another thing that I would like to show you is if I select multiple rows here, so you can see I have selected multiple rows. In fact, I have selected 10 rows here. Now if I do that control shift plus sign, it will not only add row but it will add 10 rows for me. So it will select the same number of rows for me that I have already selected. So this way working with data gets very easy for us. Now just like column, you can apply the same set of commands to the complete row as well. So if I want to apply a particular color, or if I want to change the font color, or if I want to apply formatting or indentation or anything, I can do that to the complete row in just a second. You can also hide a row by selecting the row and then right clicking and say hide, and now you can see that this row number 4 is hidden for you. And again, to unhide that, you will select the two rows here, the top one and the bottom one, and the right click and say unhide, and it will unhide the hidden row for you. Just like column, you can also change the width of the row by clicking here and dragging. And if you have selected multiple rows, it will apply your command to all the rows that were selected. I will just undo that for now. And just like columns, if I just decrease the size of this one to demonstrate and make it wrapped, if I just double click here, it will automatically adjust the width of the row data for me as per the quantity of the data. The row width has been adjusted automatically. So once you have a lot of data in your Excel sheet, you can apply these commands very quickly and the things automatically adjust. And by the way, I will not even need to select row by row by row. If I just undo it for now, I will just demonstrate you. I will select the complete sheet by clicking here or by pressing Ctrl A. And once you are dragging here and you can see this top and down arrow icon, just double click and it will do that for the complete sheet. Just like this cell width has been automatically adjusted. If the other cells will have data in the sheet, all of that will be automatically adjusted for you. One last trick that I need to show you. If you have to insert cells top to bottom or left to right, and you don't want to insert the complete row or column, all you need to do is to select the cells that you want. So for example, I want to insert cells here and I don't want to change the row. So I will just color the row for a minute so that we can see what is happening. And now I want to insert the cells here above this row, but only these 3 cells. I don't want to change the I don't want to insert the complete row. I'll press Ctrl Shift plus sign, and now it is asking me that what do I want to do. Do I want to move shift my cells down? I will say yes. I have the option to do the entire row, but I don't want to do that right now. I will say shift cells down and press OK, and now you can see that only 3 cells have been added. The remaining cells are at the same place, but since the 3 new cells have been added, these colored cells have moved down. Similarly, if I want to add some new cells here, for example here, I will do the Ctrl Shift plus and it is asking me again. I will say move my cells to the right and OK. And now you can see that the complete column is there, the upper part and the lower part is here, but these 3 new cells have been inserted, and as a result my data has moved towards the right. So these are all the basics that we needed to know about cell, rows and columns, and there are some advanced things that we will be learning as we will be working in our different areas. So with this basic, now we are ready to move forward and do some work with our data. Let us talk about one of the most important areas now, and that is copy paste. Copy paste is so important that it deserves a whole lecture, and this is because practically when we are working on Excel, we are using copy paste almost every minute. First of all, I deleted everything in my sheet here because I need to focus on new data. I selected the complete sheet, clicked here on clear all, and by clear all I not only deleted the data, I also deleted all the formatting and the number formats that were applied earlier. Now let us say that I am making a list of people from whom I need to receive my money, or maybe I need to pay the money. So I need to receive $500 from John, so I entered John and $500 in this column. For the John, the best format that is suited is the text format, so I'll apply that. And for amount, I would say accounting format works best for me, and I don't want to show any decimal. So I have intentionally applied formatting, the number formats, and also let me do a little bit of formatting just to display something. So I have done a little bit of this one. Now when I copy, first of all, to copy both the cells, I'll press Shift key and right key to select all of them. Now Control C to copy. Control C is the copy command across most of the applications. So Control C to copy, but right now I'm not using Control C. I need to demonstrate you something, and for that I'm taking you to this top panel where we have the copy option. And if I press the drop down key, you can see we have only two options, copy and then copy as picture. Copy as picture is almost useless. It will just take a picture of these two cells, which is useless for us, you can say that we have only one command, that is copy. So by applying the copy command, you have not only copied the text that is mentioned here, you have also copied the font, the formatting, the alignment, the number formats, everything. And when I paste it here, anywhere here, using Control V, that is again the generic command, it will copy for paste everything that we have just copied. But this is the only command of paste that we have used until now. Now let me go back. Everything has been selected here. You can see still the text has been selected. Let me show you what paste options do we have. Paste, and now you have so many options to paste. I need to demonstrate you three. Number one, we have the paste option, and then we have this one, that is paste values. And if I use paste values option, you can see that we have received the values, but all the formatting and number formats and alignments, all of that has been ignored. You can see it is in generic format, and again it is also in general format, and the colors have also gone. Similarly, if I it is still copied, so if I just paste it here, but this time I'll take it as paste formatting, you can see only the formats have been copied and the data has been missed. You can see that the number format here is text and the number format here is custom, which is basically accounting. So you can see only the formats have been copied. And I just need to show you one more. So we have seen this simple paste, which paste everything, and then we have seen this paste values, and then we also have this one, that is paste values and number formatting. So it will bring me the values and the formats, but the styling and all of that will be gone. So these are the four options, and the most two that we use is number one is to paste everything, and the number two option here is this one, which is paste values. So we only bring in values, getting rid of all of these options. But wait, that is not it with copy paste. There is more. And for this additional demonstration, I would need to make a formula, because I need to show you how we copy paste formulas. So I'll add 10 here and 5 here, and now I will multiply 10 multiplied by 5, and this becomes 50. So now you know that this cell here, which shows you 50, is basically a formula which is a multiplication of cell B11 and C11. So these two cells from here, B11 and C11. By the way, I will stop for a minute and I will tell you a very important concept. You know that I have entered this 10 and 5 manually out of nowhere, right? I just entered this data, and this cell here is a link of the previous two cells. So these two cells which we have entered ourselves, these are called hard-coded data, the data that we have entered ourselves. So now getting back to the point. So this cell here is, which is basically D11. If I can show you D11, this is basically a multiplication of these previous two cells. Now if I copy paste, Control C to copy and Control V to paste. You can simply use this paste option from this one. If you will use this one, paste values, it will only bring 50, right? You can see that right now it is only bringing in 50. So if you have to paste the value in all these cells, you will be using paste values. But if I use simple paste, I'm in Control V thing, now you can see the answer is 0. And what is this, why it is 0? Let me explain you. So if I have to see my formula that is being applied to any of these cells, either you can see it here, or you can click on the cell, or come to the cell by pressing the arrow key and then press F2 on your keyboard, and now you can see what is happening. Excel is showing you, and you can also see it yourself, every time we are going downwards, the cell references are changing. For example, here it is B15 and C15, here it is B16 and C16, and then B17 and then 18. So this way Excel is applying the formulas to all the cells, but Excel is using relative references. What is meant by relative reference? Let me explain you. So the references here, Excel assumes that as you are going downwards, you would be multiplying these two cells, you would be multiplying these two cells and these two cells. And Excel is right, most of the time we are doing that. But what if this is not the case? What if I want to say that, okay, you can change this number and I can add some number here. I'm just manually typing that in. I will teach you how to autofill, that will be coming next in the next lecture. But right now I'm just entering the values just to focus on one thing at a time. So I have manually entered these numbers, right? So what I am saying here is to Excel that it's okay that for this cell B11 you should go to B12 then, and then B13 and B14. But for this cell, please do not go downwards, please fix this cell here. So all I need to do is come to this top cell here, which is containing the formula, which I am going to copy. I'll press F2, and now at this C11, since I do not want to make it relative, I don't want to move it downwards, I will press F4 on my keyboard. And once you do that, you can see that it has inserted, Excel has inserted dollar signs behind C and behind 11. And you can see it looks like a lock. That's why we call it locking the cell. So we have locked the cell C11 by pressing F4 key on our keyboard, or you can also manually insert dollar sign behind the C and behind the 11, and that will also do the job. And now if I copy and paste this to all the cells below, now you can see that my formula is working. But the real thing to notice is this cell has moved downwards, but this cell has remained locked. Check here, check here, check here, check here, and you can see this is applied to all the cells. Similarly, if you wanted to lock this one as well, you could have done that as well here in the B11, but I did not do that. So now for this particular cell, that is here B11, I would say this is my relative reference. As the cell would move downwards, this will change, and as the cell will move left or right, this will change. But this point, this cell C11 is the absolute reference. Even if I copy paste this formula at any place, this will remain locked. And let me show you something crazy here. I'll copy from here, and now I am pasting it here. Control C to copy and Control V to paste. And now you can see that formula is not working, of course, because the references have changed. But you can see what is happening now. The cell C11 is still locked. It is absolute reference. I have copy pasted it anywhere, but this reference will remain intact. But for this particular reference, that was B11, my formula is assuming that whatever cell I am pasting that to, two cells on the right should be the cell I should be including in the formula, and that is exactly what they have done. So you know that this was the cell, two cells on the left, so they have taken the relative reference from there. So if you wanted to fix that, you could have done by pressing the F4 key on your keyboard. I hope that is making sense to you, but please, if you are not clear, please watch this part of the video again, because this is a very important concept. Now, one question that you may have at this moment is, we have locked this cell here, but what if we have to unlock it again? I mean, we have to make it relative reference again. Very simple. Go to the cell, press the F2 key to open the formula, and now press F4 again. And you can see that it has removed one dollar sign, but there is one still remaining. Don't worry. Press F4 again and again, and now you can see this cell is completely free of dollar signs, which means that now it is a relative reference. So you will have to do this 2-3 times till all the dollar signs are removed. And now if I press enter and copy paste here to the cells below, you can see that it is now working as a relative reference. And by the way, you could also manually remove the dollar signs by pressing this thing, arrow key, and then remove this by pressing backspace and backspace. You can also do that. Now, one last concept that we need to discuss and understand regarding absolute and relative reference. You can see that if we press F4 key here, it applies a dollar sign both for C and 11, I mean the column and the row. But press F4 again, and now you can see there is a dollar sign behind 11 but no dollar sign behind C. Press F4 again, and now there is a dollar sign behind C and not behind 11. Press F4 again and it has become dollar free again, I mean the lock free again. So what is this? So basically, what if I have to say I want to make my column C absolute but not the row number 11? For that, what I will do is I will be making a dollar sign here. Now my column C is locked. If I copy paste this formula, the C will remain as is, but 11 will be changing as I move downwards. Similarly, if I remove this one and I press dollar sign here, in this case my row number 11 is fixed, but C would change. Now let us try that. So let me copy this formula and paste it here and open this formula for you, and now you can see that my formula is saying that take the cell two step on the left and multiply it with 1 step on the left. So it is working as a relative reference for this column H. It has moved from column C to column H. But now if I copy paste downwards, you will notice something interesting, and that is the column H is fixed. The column H is now at its place. We are in the same cell, so the column H is working as is, but the row number 11 is fixed here. So again, and let me demonstrate you again. Let me paste it here and let me copy paste it all the cells below, and now you can see that it has moved the cell from C to this time to L, but as I move downwards, the row number 11 is still fixed. So my friends, these are all the copy paste functions that we used in our daily life, even though there are some additional functions of pasting, but they are not that much used, so we can move our head around them as needed. Now finally, let me show you one last important thing, and that is cut paste. But before that, let me remove this absolute reference. And now if I have to move this data from here to, let us say, this place, if I paste that, we know that the cell references are adjusted automatically. I mean, they have been made relative for this particular cell. But I don't want to use the absolute reference, rather I simply want to move this data from here to here, and I want that cell references should remain the same. So rather than copy paste, I will be using cut paste. So here is your cut on your ribbon, or you can use Ctrl X and Ctrl V now, Ctrl X to cut, copy and paste. And now if I press F2 to show you the formula, you can see that my formula is still intact. So whatever the data was available here in form of formula, that same formula has been moved to this place by cut paste. So I don't need to use relative references in this case if I am just moving the same formula, moving the same data from here to another place. Similarly, If I even move the source data from here, listen, if I do the control C, control V and delete data from here, this file will, this formula will no more work. But if I select these two cells and control X to cut this data, cut and paste it any place like this one, you can see that your formula is still intact. And the beauty about this is your formula links have automatically been updated, because when you cut paste the data, Excel knows that you are actually moving the same data, so Excel should be adjusting the formulas for that. So that is it for now, and I can confidently say that you will now be able to copy paste data like an expert in Microsoft Excel. So we often need to enter a lot of data in Microsoft Excel. And what if we can automate this task somehow? Well, that is exactly what we are going to discuss in this lecture with autofill feature of Microsoft Excel. And what is that feature? Let me explain you. I write one here and I simply drag. Once you see this icon of plus here on the corner, simply drag here to the bottom. You can see Excel has automatically repeated that one number to all the cells below. Now what I want is, I want Excel to do 1 2 3 4 5. So I will rather use two cells to show Excel what I am doing, what I want to do. Select both of them and now drag down below, and now you can see Excel is automatically following your pattern. Similarly, I can say rather than 1 2 3, I can say 1 5, and now if I drag down, Excel will understand that I want to proceed 4 numbers every time, so it has automatically added 4 every single time. Similarly, if I have to write a name, for example NYC, I can simply drag down and it will repeat the same name for me for all the different cells that I am dragging it to. Now if I have to write a date, for example 1st of January 2023, again I will drag it down and you will see that system has automatically added one date for me every single time. This time, if you don't want to move one step forward, what you will do is you will write 1st of January on 2 cells and then drag it down, and then the system will remember this time that you want to just repeat the same thing over and over again. So if I select these two now and drag it down, you will see that now the system is repeating the same thing. So these are some of the basics autofill feature, but you can use it a little more intelligently as well. For example, let us say we want to make a list of all the Sundays of 2023. So I will start with the first one, and first let us see what are the Sundays in the month of January in 2023. So here you can see that the 1st of January 2023 is going to be the Sunday, and also the 8th of January 2023. So I will write 1st of January 23 here, and then I will write 8th of January 23 here. And now Excel will automatically understand that what we are trying to achieve with only seeing these two dates. So now I will drag down, and as I drag down, you can see that system is also telling you the date right on the right side. So if I drag down, I will stop when it comes to the December or 24, and now you can see we can stop here. Okay, so now we can see the dates, and first of all let me increase the size of the column so that the numbers appear properly. Let me show you again. So these numbers are not appearing properly because of the size of the column. So once we drag down, these will appear properly. And now if we go right to the end, let us verify that if it worked correctly or not. So according to my Excel column that we have just generated, the 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th and 31st of December are going to be the Sundays. 3, 10, 17, 24 and 31. So back in calendar, you can see 3, 10, 17, 24 and 31 are actually the Sundays in December. So you can see that how easily we have created this data for all the Sundays in 2023. Now, one challenge that people usually face with autofill is where to stop our data. And they have to keep dragging down, and then they get some extra data and then they have to go back and forth. So for example, if I want to create the list of all the days from the 1st of January 2023 to the 28th of the December 31st December 2028, so I want to make a list of all the days appearing from year 2023 to 2028. So let us begin from the top, 1st of January 23 and then 2nd of January 23 and 23. And now if I drag these two dates downwards, we can keep dragging down, and you can see as we are dragging, the system is telling you that where it is right now. I'm talking about that small highlighted area on your right that you can see in the center of the screen right now, and I can keep doing it. But the problem is I don't know where to stop, and I will have to keep doing it, like this is not going to be very handy task. So what I will rather do is I will go back. Let me undo this step, and now let me go to this cell here. Rather, I don't even need the second cell for the trick that I'm going to use now. I will just go here and I will say go to this fill option and say series. And in this series, first of all, I will say let us work in columns. Please move downwards in the column, and I would say we are working with the type of data as date, and we are working on the date unit as day. So we are not working with the weekdays only or the month only or the year only. These options are also available. We can only select all the weekdays as well, but I would say let us work with day and step value 1 every single time, and the stop value should be 31st of December 2028, and now press OK. And now you can see system has automatically filled all the values for you. And to go right to the end, I will press Control downward arrow, and you can see that the system is stopping. The data is stopping at 31st of December 2028. So within seconds we have created the list of all the days appearing in 5 years correctly. So these are the basic features in autofill that we should know right at the start of our learning Microsoft Excel. There is more in autofill, but that we will be learning in the upcoming sections. Now, at the start of learning Microsoft Excel, we should also learn intelligent navigation in Excel file when there is some data. So to demonstrate, I would quickly add some data here first of all. For the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to add some line breaks here in the data so that you can see that this data is not in one series now. And now if we talk about control down arrow key that we have often spoken about, control down arrow, it is only going to the end of the series. Now then I have to do the control down arrow again and then again and then again and then again to reach at the end of the data. The alternate way to go at the end of the data here is press the control key and the end key. First, I'm demonstrating you that if I simply press the end key here, it is not doing anything. But now if I press control and end key, it has taken me right to the end of the data, the ending cell in my Excel file. Now to go back to the first cell again, first I will demonstrate you the home key, and you can see it is not working. Now if I press, it has just moved me to the first cell in this particular row. But now if I press control home key, going again from here to control home, it has moved me back to the first cell in my sheet. Now if you have to move rightwards, you will be simply either going step by step like that, or you can simply press control and right arrow key and it will take you to the last cell in the particular column, in the particular row. By the way, when we were working on the blank file, when we press control right arrow, it took me right to the end of my Excel file. But now when we are using this control right arrow, it is only taking me to the end of the data series. Similarly here, it is only taking me to the end of the data series. I mean, with series I mean the data that is all interconnected. Now if I have to select all the data that is available in my file, If I press Ctrl A, it will only select the data that is connected, that is appearing like a table. And to select all the data again in this complete file, I'll be pressing Ctrl A, and now you can see that all of my Excel file has been selected. Now you have seen that Ctrl A only selected this particular area and Ctrl A again selected the whole sheet. Well, that is not what I want to do. I only want to select the data in these particular cells. I don't want to copy the entire sheet for whatever reason. So for now, what I will do is only to select all the data regardless of these line breaks. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do Control Shift and End key, and now you can see we have selected all the data here. Now of course you must be thinking that just use mouse and it would be much more easier. Yeah, you are right, but what if we have a lot of data in our Excel file? In that case, this trick is much more helpful. The other way of selecting data is pressing the Shift key and moving step by step, like that, right or left or down. Or to move it fast, you can press the Control key and the Shift key and then right key, and you can see that all the cells that contain data in this series have been selected. And if I now press the downward key with the Control Shift already pressed, you can see that it has also selected all the cells that were appearing here in the series. And now I'm doing that again, Control Shift and downward arrow, and again and again, and this way you can select all the data manually as well. Now one important thing that we should be knowing here is, if I only want to copy the data and not these spaces, well, there are very good ways to delete blank rows in Excel. Even though it doesn't matter how many they are, we can select all of them and delete in one go, but we will be demonstrating you later on when we will be cleaning our data. Right now that is not the purpose. Right now we are only focusing on navigation. So if I have to select particular cells, so for example, if I have to select 1, 6 and 12 here, I will do is I will press the Control key and click and click and click, and now you can see we have selected multiple cells here. And if I apply anything like formatting, it will only be applied on these selected cells. For now, I'm going to undo what I have just done. Now if you have to again select multiple cells, I will press Control Shift rightward arrow key, and now I don't want to select this blank row. I only want to select the data. So I'll leave the Shift key, I'll press the Control key and click here, and now I'll press the Shift key again and rightward arrow and downward arrow, and now I will release the Shift key again, click here, right arrow and downward arrow. So this way I have only copied the data, and if I copy it, Control C now, and for example paste it here, you will see that we did not copy the blank rows, so the blank rows have been deleted. So these are some of the very basic but intelligent navigation techniques within the data that we should be knowing right at the beginning of Microsoft Excel. The next fundamental thing that we need to learn about Microsoft Excel are the basic mathematical functions. I mean addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. And for that, the first thing that I want to do is to add some dummy data here for demonstration. Let me copy paste that below, and also let me zoom in so that you can see the screen easily. I just need to show you some keys on my keyboard for navigation, and for that purpose I will also bring in the on-screen keyboard. And now let us start with the addition function. To insert a formula, first of all we need to insert an equal sign using the keyboard, and then after that we need to select the cell. You can simply click that, or you can use the arrows key on your keyboard to select the cell that you want to include in the addition. Now we have to add the plus sign, and this is something I need to show you. The plus sign is here on my keyboard, but you can see it is not even highlighted at the moment. So basically this key is being used for equals as well as plus, and if I just click here, if I just press this key, it is just going to add an additional equal sign. That is not something that we need. So to activate this plus sign, I will press the Shift key, keep it pressed, and then press this plus sign, and now select the other cell that I need, for example this one. So we can press the arrow key here and now just press enter and you can see that you have this calculation now. By the way, once you are in the formula, you can also press the tab key. In that case, you know, your navigation will be a little different. Anyways, let us focus on this point here. Now let us talk about subtraction. Again, begin with the equal sign, link the cell that we need, and now this time the minus sign is already selected. I don't need to press the shift key, just click here, just press this key, and then again, you know, select the other cell, and you got it. You have the subtraction. Next we have multiplication. Start with equal sign, select the cell, and now we got to multiply using this sign here, that is the, you know, static, but in calculations this is being used as a multiplication. But again, this cell is not going to work if I just click it. It will just insert an 8, and I don't want that. So first I will press shift and then, you know, this press this button, and now you have this static here, which is multiplication, and now select the other cell and press enter, and you have this multiplied value. Finally, for division, again start with equal sign, select the cell you need, and then the divide button is here, this one right next to your shift button. So select this one, press here, and now select the other cell that we need, press enter, and here you have, you know, your division function. So these are the 4 basic functions to begin with. But what if we have to use 2 or more mathematical functions in the same formula? So, you know, there are times where we have to do addition and multiplication in the same formulas. How we are gonna do that? Let us talk about it. So let me copy paste the dummy data, and now what I want to do is, first of all, I want to add these 2 cells, and then I want to multiply the answer with this value appearing here in this cell C4. So let us begin with an equal sign, and first of all let us multiply the cells, let us add the cells that we need. So this value here, and then, you know, plus sign, and then this value here, and now we need to multiply, and for multiplication I would press this value here, you know, shift and 8 key, and then I will select the cell that I need to multiply with, which is this value here. So select this cell and press enter, and now you know that this answer is actually not correct. We know mathematically 10 plus 5 is 15 into 2, that should be 30, and this is because we are not following the basic principles of mathematics. If we want to add these two values first thing that we got to do is to apply the brackets. So I will press F2 to, you know, unlock the formula, to open this formula, and now using this arrow key here, I will go to the beginning and I will insert a bracket here. So shift key and then opening bracket, and then come back to this point and then shift key and the closing bracket, and now press enter, and you have the right value. So this is all the basic mathematics that we need to know at the beginning of our journey of learning Microsoft Excel. To work efficiently in Microsoft Excel, we need to use keyboard shortcuts. But the scenario here is, in Microsoft Excel there are hundreds of functions and features, and we just cannot remember the keyboard shortcut for all of the functions and features. So we would rather learn an alternative way to access everything using keyboard, and this is basically the beauty of Microsoft Excel, how it has been designed. Let me show you how it works. So once you are anywhere in your worksheet, if you press the Alt key on your keyboard, you can see that now all the tabs here have an alphabet that is appearing next to that. And what that means is, if I press that alphabet on my keyboard now, I will be able to open that ribbon. So for example, if I press the N key, that is basically for insert, if I press the N key now, you can see that the ribbon has changed, and now we have the complete ribbon of insert tab. And now in this ribbon, even in this ribbon, you can see that all the functions and features that are here can be accessed using the keyboard shortcut that has been highlighted for you. So for example, if I need to use the table, all I need to do is to press the T key on my keyboard. And now I want to go back to my original home tab. All I need to do is to press Alt to undo this complete highlighting. Press Alt again and we are back to this top panel highlighting. top tabs highlighting, press the H key and we are back to the home tab. Now if I got to use, for example, the bold key, I want to bold my text, I'll be pressing 1 on my keyboard. Similarly, to make my text italic, 2 and 3 and so on, everything can be accessed using this top panel. Now let me show you some other features as well. Let me say I want to use this find and select feature. Forget the feature, we are not talking about the function and features right now. We are talking about how we can access everything using the keyboard. And you can see that to access this one, Excel is highlighting that please press FD on your keyboard. So I'll quickly press FD, and once I do that, you can see that this function has opened, the drop down has opened, and now again everything can be selected using an alphabet. So for example, if I want to select go to special, I'll press S on my keyboard, and now you can see this pop-up panel has opened for us. And now in this panel you can see that in each option there is one word that has been highlighted for us. So for example, this one, constants, here the O has been underlined. So if I press O, I'll move to constants. If I press B, you can see here, I'll move to objects. If I press, for example, D, I'll move here. If I press Y, I'll move to the visible cells only, that is option available here. So if I press Y, you can see this is how it is moving. And then all I got to do is to press OK. I can simply press enter, or I can also use the tab key, with which I can also select, you know, different buttons that are appearing here. Let me show you another thing on the same line, but another thing. So again, I need to work with the keyboard shortcuts. I press the Alt key, and to go to the home tab I press the H key, and now to go to this find and select I press FD. And now I want to use this function of replace. I will press R, and now you can see that this pop-up panel has opened, but this time there is an underline of the D has been underlined and the P has been underlined. But if I start to if I try to type D or P, it won't work. Why? Because this will start writing in here. In this case, I will use Alt key and then press D, and you can see system has moved to find. And if I press the Alt key again and press the alphabet P on my keyboard, it will take me there. And you can also see that there is another option, the button here, that is options, and in this case the T is underlined. So if I press Alt T, it will take me to the options. And now here in the format, M is underlined. I press underscore M, Alt M, sorry, not underscore M. I'll press Alt M, and it will open the formats option for me. So this way, everything can be selected using the keyboard shortcut. And finally, I can move between all these options using the tab key. But also, if I just want to navigate to any button directly, I can use the same approach. So for example, for this find all, you can see that I has been underlined. So Alt and I key will take me here. And for this replace, R has been underlined, Alt and R. Similarly here, Alt and A. Similarly here, Alt and find. So this way you can almost access everything in Microsoft Excel, especially in these ribbons, using this shortcut key approach. So before we continue with our next lectures, I would like to request you to complete a small homework. And that homework is open a new Excel file, and in that Excel file enter the names of 10 people you know, their mobile phone number, their residence number, their address, and the date of birth. And of course you may like to add the serial number with all these names, all these records. By the way, you don't have to be accurate. You can enter fictitious numbers and addresses and date of birth. That is all your choice. Once you are completed with this homework, let us meet in the next lecture where we are going to discuss some of the best practices of entering data into Microsoft Excel. Welcome back, and I hope that you have enjoyed your first Excel homework. So this is my data that I have entered, and you can see I have entered 10 records with their mobile phone number, residence phone number, address and date of birth. The way this data has been entered meets all the best practices, but what could have gone wrong? Let us discuss one by one. First of all, let me show you the first biggest mistake that you should never be doing, and that is entering the data in this style. Now this is also the same data, the same numbers and the all the same information, but what I am saying you here is this is absolutely wrong way of recording data in Excel. And what is wrong here? First, let me explain you two concepts: records and attributes. So each of the separate person, each of the separate contact that you have is a record, and the information about them like their phone number and their address, that is the attribute. So the first best practice is each record should be entered in a separate row. Each record should be entered in the rows, and their attributes, the information about them, will be coming in the columns. So mobile phone number, residence, address and date of birth, these all are attributes of the records. So attributes will be coming in the columns, and the records like John Smith is a record, and the Sarah is a contact record, and then David is a record, and then Mary is a record. All of these records will be shown in rows. So let me conclude you. Records will always come in the rows, and their attributes will always come in the column. That is the first best practice. Now you may be thinking that it is my Excel file, I can use I can enter data in the way I like, Well, the point is there are two problems here. The first problem is you can have millions of records, and if that is the case, Excel can handle the millions of things. But will the records have millions of attributes? No, that is not going to be the case. There can be only very rare exception in the world, but in usual cases there cannot be millions of attributes about the records, but there can be millions of records. Like talk about companies like Amazon or any other big company, there can be millions of customers, but attributes are limited for all those customers. So the first argument is, the first thing is that we should be doing it this way so that we can enter millions of records. And the second important reason, which is very important, is be it Microsoft Excel or any other spreadsheet software or any other data analysis software in the world, these softwares are designed to analyze data in this way, where records are in the rows and attributes are in the columns. If you will break this structure, the data analysis tools, be it Microsoft Excel or be it any other software, these tools will simply not work. So I think I have made my point. Now let me move to the second best practice, and the second best practice is each record should be entered in a separate row. Well, you could have done this, press the F2 here and alt enter and enter the other record in the same in the same row, right? But never do it. Each record will be going to a separate row, and similarly each attribute will be going to a separate column. Like mobile phone number is going to a separate column, and then residence is in a separate column, and then address is in separate column, and then date of birth. Now here you can ask me a question, that should I split the address into separate columns? For example, one for the home number and one for the this is for the city and for the country and one for the area. Should I do that? Well, if you have a lot of records and you need more detailed level analysis for this kind of for geographical data analysis, like the country level and the city level and the state level, if you need that kind of analysis, then yes, you can further split address into multiple columns. But if this is a generic information that is not going to be used in detailed analysis, you can simply enter data in one column. And having said that, in the next sections where we are going to learn to transform data, I will tell you that if you have data in one single column like that, how we can split the data from one column to the multiple columns. So please don't worry about that for now. Even if you have address, complete address in one column, we can handle that, so we don't have to worry about it at this moment at least. Now let us talk about the next best practice of entering data into Microsoft Excel, and that is there should not be any blank rows. So someone may like to enter data like that where there are blank rows, right, like this one, but that is not acceptable at all. Be it Microsoft Excel or any other data storage or data analysis software, you cannot have blank rows in the data, and this is because if there are blank rows, your reports will simply break down, your reports will simply not be accurate. So that's why I would say there should not be any blank rows in your Microsoft Excel. And just like rows, the next best practice is there should not be any blank column either. So you can say we have some blank columns here in my data, and again this is not acceptable at all. You cannot have neither a blank row nor a blank column. Now the next best practice is enter the data in a standard format. What that means is here you can say we have entered the country USA, but in the next row if I enter it as US, in the next row if I enter it as United States, in the next row if I entered it as United States of America, this is going to create a lot of trouble for me in my data analysis stage. So for that reason I would say follow a standard format, follow a standard text. If you have entered USA here to refer to America, that should be the case for all the different records that we are entering. This should be entered in the similar way. Now here you must be thinking that there are my staff members who are entering the data and there are so many different things to enter about. How we can standardize everything? Well, there is a feature of Microsoft Excel which will make sure that you cannot enter the data in the way other than that is allowed. For example, for the USA, if you have made sure that your employees can only enter USA, they will have no choice. So they will not be able to use a different spelling or a lower case font or an uppercase font differently. So but that we are going to learn that in the upcoming sections of this course. Moving to the next best practice, if you don't have information about something, for example you don't have the residence phone number of James, you will simply leave the cell blank or you will enter NA for not available. You will not be entering 0. Never enter a 0 for something that is not available, and this is particularly important when you are entering the amount, your price or cost or something, the money. When we are entering currency, this is very important there. So the best practice is if you do not have the data for something, leave it blank or enter N-A for not available. Never enter a 0. Now we have to talk about the best practice regarding entering further information. So now let us say you realize that you now need to add another detail into this sheet, and that is how much money you need to receive or pay from each of these contacts. For that you can definitely add a new column here that can be for amount O or on, and you can then enter the information like from John I need to receive $100, for Sarah I need to pay her $20, so I'm recording that in with negative sign so that I can realize that this is something I have to pay. For David I have to receive $500, so this is completely alright. But now after that you realize that you also have to record your inventory. So you are running a car showroom and you need to record all the cars that you have available for sale right now, and you started doing it here. So this is not right. You cannot enter different types of data in the same Excel sheet. So you will delete it from here and open a new Excel sheet. I'm not saying Excel file. The Excel file can be same as long as all of that data is related. You may like to keep it in one Excel file. But if there is a different type of information, that must be on a separate sheet. So add a new sheet, and on that sheet you can say you are entering the information of all the cars that are available to you for sale right now. And this is because this data is unrelated to my first data. Now let us talk about the next best practice, which has to do with formulas, the way the formulas are entered in Microsoft Excel. So let me explain you. So let us say we have these customers here. These 10 are customers, and we are incurring different costs for their projects. And the cost here is recorded as 1000 and 1500 and 2000. And now I need to calculate my profit. So first of all, my profit percentage is going to be 20%. So I said this is 20% in each of these cases. Now I have to calculate the profit. So how we can do that? First of all, you already know that 1020% is going to be $200, and you can write it this way. But the question, the $200, I'm sorry, not 2200. You can write it this way. There's nothing wrong with this, right? But this is not the right way of doing it. This is because this calculation here, the 200, is basically coming from these two cells. So the information in these two cells represents the value here. So rather than typing in value, which is called hard coding the value, so rather than hard coding the value like that, I will be applying the formula, and the value in this cell basically should be the formula. I mean, the value here should be properly referenced to the sources, and anyone should be able to check the value by pressing the F2 key here. So this is again one of the best practices, that if my data in a cell is dependent on other cells, that should be calculated using formulas in the cell, rather than calculating it separately on a manual calculator and then typing in hard coding the value. That is not something that is acceptable in Microsoft Excel. And with this, we are now ready to move towards our last best practice, that is always insert table. So what does that mean? This is already a table, right? You can think about that. But in Excel, there is a table feature which, if you add, will allow you many different new features. So for that, I will go to this insert option here and I'll click on table. And once we do that, it is now asking me that what should be the range, and it has automatically selected the range from here to here, or you can also manually adjust that. Do your table has headers? Yes, my table has headers already. So I'll just press on OK. And now you can see your data is structured a little differently. This is now in a table, and you can also see you have a complete new tab now which says table design, and it has so many options. And one of them I can like to show you is you can style your data very easily in the way you like. So that is one of the things that you should be doing in following the best practices. Now the question you may be having, the question why, and the answer to this why is, well, there are many answers, there are many things that are amazing now, but one of the key thing that I would like to tell you, if there are reports based on this data, when the new data gets added here in line 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 and onwards, those reports will automatically be updated to reflect that new data as well. Was it not a table? If we had not inserted a table like that, those reports will not be including the new formula. But now that our data is in table, it will automatically be getting updated. And how? Let me show you a little thing. Now you can see this small icon here. This shows that your table is ending here. What if I add record number 11 here? You can see your record 11 is already included in the table now. Record 12 and 13 and 14, and you can see your table is automatically getting updated. So any reports that are based on this data will also be automatically getting updated at the same time. So this is one of the key reasons that our data should be in the table, but there are many other benefits as well that we can talk about later on. So with this, I am concluding my lecture on the best practices. So this may be a little bit difficult at the beginning to move your head around all of these, but once you know, in a few days you will be, once you're following these best practices, you will be very happy that your data is structured nicely and you can move forward with the analysis and reporting. Now the next thing is, you may be thinking that we are not always preparing the data ourselves. Many times we are receiving the data from our customers, from our colleagues, from our juniors, seniors, and sometimes we are downloading the data from internet, and we may be seeing all kind of mess and the broken rules on best practices. So how we can handle that messy data? We have a complete dedicated section for that. In fact, not just one, we have two sections for that, one for data cleaning and one for data transformation. So we will be discussing all of those techniques there. For now, I will just stop the basics of Excel here, and I'll see you again in the next section.